They took him off. And they took him off because the owner said take him off. I don't want that guy.
The NFL doesn't force a rookie quarterback into a drug test without sending shockwaves across the league, and that's exactly what's happened with Shedeur Sanders, the Browns' highly scrutinized newcomer who was supposed to be the fresh face of Cleveland's offense, suddenly finds himself at the center of headlines for reasons that have nothing to do with his playbook. What should have been a clean launch to his career has turned into questions of trust, control, and whether the league itself is already testing his resolve before he's even taken a meaningful snap. TV ratings spiked the moment Sanders suited up for his first preseason drive, jumping nearly 30% compared to the Browns' previous exhibition broadcast, which underlined just how much national curiosity surrounded his debut. That surge in attention also magnified the fallout when the NFL forced him into a drug test shortly afterward. What should have been a routine administrative step instantly became a headline, with millions of viewers now framing Sanders not just as a promising rookie, but as a player under immediate league scrutiny. For the Browns front office, that shift in perception carried real consequences. Instead of controlling the narrative around their prized young quarterback, Cleveland had to watch as talk shows dissected what the test might mean for his career trajectory. Coaches couldn't ignore how the chatter bled into practice, with teammates fielding questions about Sanders' situation rather than the team's actual on-field preparation. And in a league where momentum and optics matter as much as results, that kind of distraction can't simply be brushed aside. The ripple effects extended beyond the locker room. Cleveland's ticket office reported a sellout surge when Sanders was first announced as likely to see significant preseason snaps, with resale markets in Northeast Ohio flipping from sub-$50 seats to triple digits in a matter of hours. Yet, once the test news broke, demand flattened, with brokers reporting resale activity falling back down by almost 40% in just 2 days. That kind of swing shows how fragile the hype machine can be when a narrative turns negative. Fans don't just buy tickets for football, they buy into a story, and the NFL's actions suddenly complicated Sanders' storyline in a way no rookie wants. Sportsbooks felt the tremor too. In the week leading up to his test, Browns' prop bets around Sanders accounted for nearly 15% of all team-related action, a staggering figure for a rookie who hasn't started. Within 48 hours of the headlines, that volume dropped nearly in half, a clear sign that bettors were losing confidence or waiting for clarity. For Sanders himself, the timing couldn't have been worse. Rookie quarterbacks thrive on reps and rhythm, yet forced testing pulled attention away from actual football. Missing even a handful of practice snaps, particularly when working with starters, has measurable consequences. NFL data shows that first-year quarterbacks who miss more than 15% of training camp reps with their starting unit average completion percentages 5 points lower over their rookie season. Sanders, who already entered camp under pressure to win over veterans and prove his decision-making speed, now faced an extra layer of evaluation with cameras zoomed in on his every throw. Unlike Patrick Mahomes, who sat behind Alex Smith with little external pressure, Sanders is being asked to lead immediately, and every second lost in practice sharpens the difficulty of that task. The Browns coaching staff can't ignore how league actions shift the balance of control. By forcing Sanders into a test, the NFL effectively told Cleveland, "Your quarterback is our concern, not just yours." That message doesn't just reverberate through Berea, it changes how opponents perceive Sanders too. Defensive coordinators smell opportunity in distractions, and rival players see a young quarterback suddenly asked to shoulder off-field weight before proving himself on the field. Whether fair or not, those are the stakes now surrounding every snap Sanders takes from here on out. Why this moment matters so much for Shedeur Sanders is because it strikes directly at the foundation of how rookies build trust within an NFL organization. Sanders arrived in Cleveland with massive expectations, not just from the team, but from an entire fan base desperate for stability at quarterback. Every rep in camp, every preseason series, every interaction with coaches is supposed to reinforce the idea that he's ready to carry that weight. Instead, the forced test has planted an unwanted cloud over his introduction, and the timing couldn't be more damaging. Rookie quarterbacks operate on razor-thin margins. They don't just have to learn the playbook, they have to prove to veterans that they can command a huddle, absorb coaching, and produce consistency on the field. Losing focus even temporarily makes that climb far steeper. The numbers reinforce how much pressure Sanders is under. The Browns' practice reports showed he had taken roughly 65% of first-team reps before the testing distraction, a clear indication that the coaching staff wanted him to fast-track chemistry with starting receivers. In the 2 days following the test headlines, that percentage slipped as the staff redistributed reps to the backup rotation in order to stabilize the room. For an established starter, that might be a minor blip. For a rookie, it's a massive lost opportunity. NFL tracking data reveals that quarterbacks who miss consistent first-team reps in August are twice as likely to start the season with completion percentages under 60%. Sanders already faces the steep adjustment curve that all first-year passers deal with. Speed of the game, disguised coverages, tighter throwing windows, and taking reps away only deepens the challenge. The immediate impact is also financial and cultural. Ticket sales surged once Sanders was penciled in as a likely Week 1 starter, with preseason attendance in Cleveland reaching levels the franchise hadn't seen since 2018. But once the test hit the news cycle, momentum slowed. One resale platform reported that average ticket prices for the Browns' first regular season home game dropped by nearly $40 in a single weekend. That's not just a number, it's a reflection of wavering fan confidence. And wavering confidence has a way of seeping into the locker room. Players feel it, coaches hear it, and local media amplifies it. From a league standpoint, the significance is magnified by television ratings. The NFL Network replay of Sanders' first preseason action pulled in nearly 1.8 million viewers, a 25% increase compared to the Browns' previous summer broadcast. That spike showed the NFL exactly how valuable he is as a ratings draw, which is why the timing of the test matters. Instead of capitalizing on that attention with hype, highlights, and storylines about the Browns' new era, the narrative veered into speculation and off-field noise. For Cleveland, that's more than just bad optics. It's lost leverage. Teams thrive when they can market a new face of the franchise without caveats, and Sanders has had a caveat attached to his name before throwing a single regular season pass. The depth chart pressure compounds all of this. Sanders isn't being groomed behind a secure veteran. He's expected to compete for the starting role immediately. Losing practice reps means head coach Kevin Stefanski has less film of Sanders operating with the full offensive unit, which complicates decisions about the Week 1 starter. It also hands the narrative advantage to his competition. Teammates notice who is sharpest in practice, and they don't forget when reps shift because of outside distractions. Sanders must now fight perception on two fronts. Inside the building, where he has to prove reliability to veterans and coaches, and outside in the media, where every headline shapes how fans view his leadership potential. All of this underscores why the forced test isn't just a headline. It's a pivotal turning point. It disrupted momentum, cost reps, shifted fan perception, and gave rivals fuel to question his readiness. The NFL might consider the process routine, but the fallout for Sanders and the Browns has been anything but routine. This is a moment where trust has to be rebuilt, both in the locker room and in the stands, and how Sanders responds will determine whether the story defines his rookie year or becomes just a footnote. When looking at Shedeur Sanders' situation, the clearest way to understand its gravity is to compare it with how other young quarterbacks have navigated sudden off-field storms. History is littered with examples, and Cleveland fans know them all too well. Johnny Manziel, once the face of hope in 2014, entered the league with hype that rivaled Sanders, but off-field headlines began overshadowing his actual play before he even had a chance to establish himself, and the results were catastrophic. Within 2 seasons, his completion percentage stalled under 60%. Ticket resale values that had spiked during his rookie preseason collapsed by more than half, and local broadcasts lost nearly 20% of their viewership when he was benched. While Sanders' forced test is different in nature, the comparison reminds fans just how quickly perception can snowball into something that reshapes a career. Another Browns cautionary tale comes in the form of Josh Gordon, who led the NFL in receiving yards in 2013, but then endured repeated battles with league discipline. Though Sanders' case involves a single league-mandated test rather than a pattern of violations, the broader lesson is striking. Every time Gordon was pulled from the field, Cleveland's offensive identity collapsed, attendance fell, and sponsors quietly backed away. The ripple effect wasn't just about one player, it rewrote how the league and the public perceived the Browns' ability to manage talent. Sanders' test may not yet carry that kind of weight, but it invites the same questions about stability and reliability at the game's most important position. Contrast that with quarterbacks who thrive despite early scrutiny. Take Cam Newton, whose unique style and outspoken personality made him polarizing right out of the gate. Instead of being buried by the noise, Newton delivered immediate production, leading Carolina to a massive jump in national TV ratings. Fox reported nearly 35% higher viewership during his rookie season and boosting jersey sales into the league's top 5. The difference: Newton's controversies were overshadowed by his ability to deliver wins, highlights, and marketability on the field. Sanders has the same chance. If he turns speculation into performance, the conversation can flip in his favor overnight. Patrick Mahomes provides another illuminating comparison, though for opposite reasons. Unlike Sanders, Mahomes didn't face controversy because Andy Reid insulated him behind Alex Smith for a full year. With no pressure to start and no distractions, Mahomes could quietly develop. Sanders doesn't have that luxury. He is expected to compete immediately, with ticket sales, TV ratings, and betting markets all tied directly to his name. That difference highlights why this forced test carries more impact than it might for another rookie. Without the buffer of time, Sanders' every rep and every headline counts double. The measurable trends line up with these comparisons. When rookies face controversy before their first regular season start, TV ratings for their teams often spike initially out of curiosity, only to dip sharply if play doesn't match the hype. That's exactly what happened with Manziel, whose debut preseason broadcast drew nearly 5 million viewers nationally, but whose subsequent regular season games averaged less than half of that once performance lagged. By contrast, Newton's debut season kept ratings elevated all year long because he delivered. Sanders' path will follow one of these arcs, and the forced test may end up determining which. These comparisons aren't just historical footnotes. They serve as reminders that Sanders' situation is precarious. If he plays well, the headlines fade and fans rally. If he stumbles, the test becomes part of a larger narrative that Cleveland has seen before: wasted talent under a microscope. The stakes are amplified by the team's own history, and Sanders can't afford to let that history repeat itself. The deeper context of Shedeur Sanders' forced test goes far beyond the football field. It reaches into business, broadcast, and brand territory, where the NFL and its teams make and lose billions. Before the controversy, Sanders was already trending toward becoming one of the Browns' most marketable players in years. Fanatics reported his rookie jerseys ranking in the league's top 15 sellers during the first week of preseason, a rare feat for a Cleveland player. Local shops around Northeast Ohio stocked up on Sanders merchandise, expecting him to replicate the jersey surges once seen when Baker Mayfield was drafted in 2018. But within days of the test news breaking, the momentum cooled. Retailers quietly admitted that online searches for Sanders gear dropped by nearly 20%, while store foot traffic flattened in what should have been a peak moment. Sponsorships felt the ripple as well. Regional car dealerships and national beverage brands had already reached out to the Browns about potential Sanders tie-ins. For a rookie, that level of interest speaks to how much upside the league believed he had. Yet brand strategists are notoriously risk-averse. The NFL forcing him into a test immediately raised questions of optics. Could a marketing campaign built around him withstand public skepticism? Some companies hit pause, not because they believe Sanders was guilty of anything, but because perception alone can tank a campaign's ROI. It's a reminder of how quickly business momentum can be derailed by off-field headlines. Broadcast partners had to recalibrate too. When Sanders played, local ratings on Wuse in Cleveland jumped nearly 28% compared to the prior preseason game, proving that his presence directly translated into higher viewership. Nationally, NFL Network's rebroadcast of Browns preseason action outdrew most other matchups that week, largely thanks to curiosity around Sanders. But the narrative shift from football to controversy changed the tone of coverage. Instead of segments focused on Sanders' throws, mechanics, or playbook mastery, highlight packages revolved around the forced test. That kind of coverage doesn't sell the same way. Networks thrive on hype that builds stars, not speculation that casts doubt. Fan sentiment reflected the business swings. Social media activity around Sanders spiked 300% in the 48 hours following the test announcement. But the tone shifted. Where earlier tweets and posts celebrated his swagger and potential, the conversation turned skeptical. Polling by a Cleveland sports radio affiliate showed 41% of fans saying they were concerned about Sanders' readiness after the headlines, up from just 12% before. That kind of sentiment matters. Fans drive merchandise sales, secondary ticket markets, and ultimately the atmosphere at First Energy Stadium. A skeptical crowd can feel very different than one rallying behind a young young quarterback. Even sportsbooks adjusted. In the week leading up to the test, Cleveland's odds to make the playoffs hovered around plus 180, buoyed by optimism that Sanders could spark the offense. After the headlines, odds slipped closer to plus 250 as bettors recalibrated expectations. Prop bets tied directly to Sanders. Passing yards, Rookie of the Year odds saw noticeable drops in volume. Sportsbooks survive on perception as much as numbers, and right now, the perception was caution. All of this illustrates why the forced test matters in ways the box score can't capture. It affected sales, sponsorships, TV ratings, fan confidence, and even betting markets. That's the ecosystem a franchise quarterback has to live in, and Sanders learned in his first month that his brand is as fragile as his stat line. For Cleveland, the disappointment isn't just about a disrupted preseason, it's about a lost opportunity to maximize momentum when everything was supposed to trend upward. The story stopped being about football, and in today's NFL, that is a business problem as much as it is a public relations one. Projecting forward, the forced test could shape Shedeur Sanders' trajectory in multiple directions, and each carries heavy consequences for the Browns and the league. If Sanders clears the process and immediately delivers on the field, the controversy fades into background noise. The NFL has seen this story before, a rookie burdened with distractions who flips the narrative with performance. In that best-case scenario, Cleveland regains momentum. Ticket demand rebounds, jersey sales climb back, and the narrative pivots to resilience. Ratings would spike again, especially if Sanders engineers highlight real moments in his first starts. Data from past rookies shows that when a player responds to controversy with wins, viewership doesn't just recover, it can surge even higher. Cam Newton's 2011 season is a model here. Questions swirled early, but once he lit up defenses, local broadcasts jumped nearly 40% in ratings compared to the prior year. But if Sanders struggles, the implications are far more severe. For a rookie expected to compete immediately, there is little margin for error. A rocky start would confirm doubts fueled by the forced test and create a self-fulfilling narrative of instability. The Browns' playoff odds would plummet. Odds makers already shaved 70 basis points off Cleveland's line after the headlines, and continued poor play could push them into long shot territory. Secondary ticket markets would crater as well. Data from past Browns seasons shows that when quarterback uncertainty dominates headlines, resale prices dip close to face value, even for marquee opponents. That collapse isn't just about money, it's about energy in the stadium. An apathetic fan base watching a rookie struggle under controversy is one of the hardest environments for a quarterback to develop in. Roster dynamics make the situation even trickier. Kevin Stefanski needs tape of Sanders operating with the starters to make confident depth chart decisions. If Sanders doesn't separate himself quickly, the team may feel compelled to lean on a veteran placeholder to stabilize the offense. That would mean reduced reps, a delayed learning curve, and a harsher narrative that Sanders couldn't seize the job despite being handed every opportunity. Once that perception sets in, it's hard to reverse. Analysts will point to historical comps like Dwayne Haskins, who lost early confidence from his team and never fully recovered. There's also a league-wide dimension. The NFL is in a ratings race, and young quarterbacks are the fuel. Sanders represented a fresh storyline. Deion Sanders' son stepping onto the biggest stage, a charismatic rookie in a football-obsessed market. If the league's first move with him is a forced test that derails hype, it raises questions about how the NFL manages its most marketable assets. Television partners care about that. Advertisers care about that. And if Sanders flames out under the weight of scrutiny, it won't just be a Browns problem. It will be a missed opportunity for the league to capture a broader audience. The most likely outcome sits somewhere in between. Sanders will get his chances, and flashes of brilliance will coexist with rookie mistakes. The question is whether the test remains a footnote or an anchor. Every interception will now be framed against the backdrop of off-field scrutiny. Every win will be treated as redemption. That's the environment Sanders has to operate in, and it raises the stakes on every snap. The future of Cleveland's season, and perhaps Sanders' early career arc, depends on how quickly he can wrestle the narrative back onto the field. At its core, this moment with Shedeur Sanders is about control. Control of the narrative, control of perception, and control of his future. A rookie quarterback's job is already the hardest in sports, but when the league itself shines a spotlight on you before you've taken a meaningful snap, the margin for error becomes almost non-existent. Sanders has shown flashes of composure, charisma, and leadership, but the forced test has rewritten the conversation before he's even had the chance to define himself on the field. For the Browns, the stakes extend extend beyond football. This is about re-establishing credibility in a city that has seen too many false dawns at quarterback. For the league, it's about proving that scrutiny doesn't come at the cost of stardom. Now the question becomes whether Sanders can turn this adversity into fuel. If he rises above, this moment may someday be remembered as the spark that hardened him into a leader. If he falters, it risks becoming the headline that follows him for years. In the NFL, narratives are powerful, and this one is still being written. So here's where the debate starts. Did the NFL just place Sanders under a microscope that no rookie could survive? Or is this the exact kind of trial by fire that could forge him into the star Cleveland has been waiting for?